Hi, dilly hey, neighborino. It is Jim Dempsey, a man with less hair than Carl Sanders, but more hair than Dallas. And we are launching a new channel here. We don't have a proper studio. I don't have a proper mic. There's no reason why anyone should necessarily take me seriously on anything that I say just yet. So, as a means of establishing my bona fides, I began yesterday by establishing a list of the top 10 significant death metal albums without doing any research, just going straight off the top of my head from my own lived experience, as the kids say. I did minimal script work, pretty much just making sure I didn't go over and didn't come in under. And I thought it was a pretty comprehensive list. But let's go back over it really quick for a refresher. I cited Altars of Madness as the album that legitimized death metal as a artistic form in the heavy metal genre, as opposed to just a stylistic device used to cover a lack of proficiency. I cited Deicide, self-titled, for a similar reason, really just legitimizing the fucking scary factor that, in a way that even Altars could not. I cited Left Hand Path, an album that I do not personally care for excessively, just because it's a very obvious choice. I cited Tomb of the Mutilated because you can't ignore Cannibal Corpse if you're talking about death metal, and Tomb of the Mutilated is, in many respects, the most significant of their releases. I cited Cause of Death because I cited Cause of Death. It seemed like kind of a gimme, and I didn't think it's going to be excessively disputed. I called out Effigy of the Forgotten as the album that launched the entirety of the slam genre. I summoned Heartwork as the Carcass album that launched an equivalent number of niche subgenres under a particular banner. And the reason why I went Carcass and not with a Bolt Thrower album, well, I mean, we'll come back to that a little bit, but although it's a little bit of a latecomer, I did feel like Heartwork simply demanded its place in the canon in a way that albums to come later with theoretically comparable levels of significance just don't merit. And I did the perhaps unorthodox pick of Focus, because if we're talking about legitimizing, Focus was really an early effort in legitimizing death metal as something that could be kind of just not death metal. And because it is my contention that Morbid Angel is just that significant, I did slot in Covenant for the fact of the video and the impact that seemed to have had on just a whole wealth of kids, because Morbid Angel is a band that kept coming back to make an impact again and again. There was Altars, and then there was the video, and then as mentioned in my Morbid Angel video, there are a lot of kids that cite Formulas and Gateways as their entry points into Morbid Angel and into death metal overall, and for that reason that's their favorite era of Morbid Angel. And I don't think that's entirely unreasonable. for someone of that age, because I also have quite a shine for albums such as Formulas, which was new hat to me when I came out. So that was my top 10. I did cite a couple honorable mentions. Immolation was a potential contender, and 6 Feet Under merited mention. But the fact about these bands is 6 Feet Under just doesn't have that album that really launches off from, in a way that Morbid Angel and Obituary and Deicide all totally do. And Immolation was really hurt by the fact that Dawn of Possession was something that pointed to that next album, and the next album was supposed to be something that was going to be a top 10 contender easily. And it didn't work out that way, because 40 years on from the origins of the genre, 5 years from one record to the next is not an uncommon thing. In 1991, if you were going to take 5 years to get your next album out, you were essentially signing your own death warrant, as Immolation found out, and it took them a couple of decades to really establish themselves to the level that that second album really would have much more immediately had it come out in 1992. 6 Feet Under, I think we could call it 6 Feet Under syndrome, but I'd rather call it dismember syndrome, because well, let's see how my list stacks up with the Google machine. So we did check what are the top selling and the most popular death metal albums of all time. We cross-referenced that by what are the top selling bands, most popular death metal bands, etc. And what comes out in terms of the internet's AI overview of top selling, or top rather, death metal albums, they have Left Hand Path, they cite Altars of Madness, they bring in Effigy of the Forgotten, Slaughter of the Soul. Is that Deicide? It says Deicide, and it's albums, not bands, bar Morbid Angel. So I think I win that one. Point for Jim there. They cite Cause of Death. Heartwork comes in, and Cannibal Corpse. They could mean Cannibal Corpse the band. Cannibal Corpse is the other contender, along with Morbid Angel, that AI could confuse and just throw in there as an AI hallucination. But I sort of think that they mean Tomb of the Mutilated there, and they just aren't gonna say it. So what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, huh? Your boy's doing pretty good. Now, I am going to really quick list off things that I did feel should have contended, and I'll admit I probably should have mentioned these in yesterday's video to timestamp it, but you see my script here. So, what was I doubting myself on? Autopsy, Cryptopsy, Dying Fetus, all bands where, do they come in? Dismember Syndrome. What was the album? Well, if I was going to make a non-contiguous top 10 of independent bands, then probably Covenant would give way to Destroy the Opposition. But is Destroy the Opposition the definitive Dying Fetus? We're establishing bona fides here, so I'm also admitting ignorances here. I don't know Dying Fetus enough to really make a good judgment call on that. I saw Dying Fetus and Jungle Rot some years back, and I was fucking bored the whole goddamn time. And wanted to leave early, but I was there with Big D, and Big D likes Dying Fetus. So far as I know, he does not like Jungle Rot, so not trying to throw him under the bus there. Pestilence is another one. If you're under a certain age, and I'm going to say almost 35 as of the time of this video, you can kind of hardly imagine how significant Pestilence was once upon a time. I had said in the Morbid Angel video that their Elude efforts obviated Cold Lake as the Cold Lake of heavy metal, and previous to that, Spheres was definitely a top slot for that pick. People regarded Pestilence as being technical death metal, which shows you both how rudimentary the whole thing was once upon a time, and also validates your boy's contention that Altars of Madness is much more significant in legitimizing this subgenre than was, say, any Death album or even Seven Churches. Google does cite Dismember, and I call Dismember Syndrome. What was the album? Because that's not the definitive Dismember album, bro. Does Dismember even have a definitive album? I think the definitive Dismember album is Massive Killing Capacity, because that's the first time that people really took notice of Dismember, for worse, if not for better. And we're admitting ignorances here. I did not even think to list Atheist. That one kind of took me aback that I didn't think of it. But to be honest with you, anytime I've ever heard anything about Atheist, it just was the kind of thing that made me think, I will not like this band. And so, at a time when you had to buy the album to hear the album, you took the chances you took, and you didn't take the chances you didn't take. But if I'm compiling a list of top 10 that could have Jim maybe missed, let's cite through them here. So, number one pick, probably None So Vile, because we're talking technical. Atheist slotted in at number 15. Not that significant. None So Vile is an album that definitely tore heads off when it came out. But, we're confessing biases here. Canadian. Further, Whisper Supremacy was similarly influential in different circles than None So Vile. So, maybe an equal contender. And, finally, Blasphemy Made Flesh is the superior album. Until Once Was Not, which is the definitive Cryptopsy album, if you need any Cryptopsy albums, and I don't recommend that you necessarily do, but Once Was Not is definitely an excellent starting point. My number 2 pick I didn't list them numerically. I'm going to have to rifle through my own goddamn notes. We'll get through this together. My number 2 pick was 2 Megatherion because, does Celtic Frost count as death metal? Well, I mean, once upon a time, a lot more so than today, and everyone that was doing death metal was building off of Celtic Frost in one way or another. And this is the album that really put them on the map. Granted, the Hellhammer's demos were similarly influential to the people who are influential, but that's doing the Kevin Bacon thing, and that's not necessarily our game here. But for sheer posterity, number 2 does come in, 2 Megatherion. Number 3, we give to Mental Funeral, and I'm calling just Member Syndrome. It's the Autopsy album that everyone cites now, but that's because everyone needs to cite Autopsy, and this is the obvious Autopsy album to cite, but it's a little less so of an obvious top 10 cite. So that's number, what? Number 12, 13 then. Number 14, we bring it in at a death album because death belongs in top 10 most significant bands for certain, but as previously discussed, I don't think Scream Bloody Gore stacks up to Altars, and Death is a band that their arc goes so far away from death metal, and if you were to pick the definitive death album, you'd have a lot to choose from because of that arc. So, a death album. Scream Bloody Gore, possibly, but it has to vie with an album that helped to legitimize the wank in death metal, which would be either human or symbolic, and I don't really know which one that would be. Watch the forthcoming death video for more on that one. But a death album comes in at number 14. Number 15, Sinister, because Sinister was a much more significant band than people remember today. See Pestilence, but minus that whole Spheres arc and minus the shit show ever after that. Sinister is, to Jim, the single band most carrying on worthwhile death metal. What is the definitive Sinister album? Diabolical Summoning is the best of the early era, until Aggressive Measures. But Cross the Sticks is the first Sinister album, so yeah. I give Cross the Sticks number 15. Number 16, We Are Talking Pestilence, Consuming Impulse. Again, what is the definitive album? Testimony of the Ancients could really be the definitive, but I think that, what was it, Doctrine? The first one after Spheres is really the definitive. Resurrection, that one. That one is the definitive Pestilence album, because that one was where you could just say, you don't need to listen to anything this band will ever do again. Am I going to say Fight Me? No, I don't really want to have Patrick Mameli up on my grill, to be honest with you. He seems like a scrappy little bastard. Number 17. We got to throw it down to Amorphous, a band I have actually. I've heard them, yeah. So, technically have actually heard Amorphous. Didn't like it whatsoever. Another band that, like Death, the arc goes so wide and so far away from death metal that you almost can't count it, except for the fact of we give Heartwork and Slaughter because they launch genres. We give Effigy because it launches genres. Amorphous is the root point of probably more than all of that combined, because from Amorphous you not only have the entirety of Anathema, Paradise Lost, My Dying Bride, and all that comes from that, but you also have The Gathering, and all that comes from that, Theatre of Tragedy, Sins of Thy Beloved, so on down the line. So, in a Kevin Bacon sort of way, we can really blame After Forever on Amorphous. And what are we at here? Number 18? I'm going to give it up to Dismember. But what album? So, a Dismember album, and because it is not Massive Killing Capacity, I'm going to cite Pieces because the cover is enough to put it in place of Like an Ever-Flowing Stream. And enough said about Dismember for the moment, because we're talking significant. Sorry, guys. Who wants to hear about Sentinex next? Number 19, where are we at? Count me off, y'all. Figure I'm at 19 or 20, I'm sorry. New channel, we're still launching this shit. Dying Fetus. Another case of Dismember Syndrome. Destroy the Opposition because Google confuses it with deicide. And we need a number 10 for our top 20. So, what's my pick? Well, if we're talking about legitimizing, making themes a thing, you can't really overlook Broken Hope. So, Swamped in Gore, because it just doesn't get a whole lot gorier than that, until maybe the one with the razor pussy. King Fowley hated this band over these lyrics. He probably wasn't too fond of the riffs, but he bitched about the lyrics the most. We can probably lay a lot of the gore themes that we find in slam at the feet of Broken Hope, because suffocation, well, okay, breeding the spawn doesn't get talked about enough, but who remembers marital decimation? Suffocation was not covering the themes that slam gets really deep into in a way that Broken Hope does. So, list me out here. Let's count it off. See if I did a top 10 here. We did Cryptopsy, Celtic Frost, Autopsy. I didn't want to, but we did a death album. We did Sinister and Pestilence. We did Amorphous and Dying Fetus and Broken Hope. What do you think? Does it stack up? Drop a comment below, and thanks for watching. We'll come back and talk more shit if I live through the night.